Hello, we can delve into the headlines now.
Yes, let's do that.
I have an interesting one on the Daily Graphic Weekend Special. Hello.
Why are you laughing?
This headline, it can evoke, depending on the church you go, it can evoke some things. Big story here, Nogopo Temple to unmask killers. As family of 60-year-old resorts to thunder God. Wow, story by Timothy Goba. Also here, unqualified persons won't be recruited into security services. Minister designate for Interior, Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak, has said after doing his vetting yesterday at the appointments committee, he was the only person to have been vetted, considering his portfolio. If you open page 2, there are some more headlines here. Mahama assures Volta region of fair share of national development during the thank you tour of the region yesterday. Also here, danger looms at Bimbila as residents drink from untreated Wampu Dam. Dear Madam Jifago Mashi, there's a letter from creative players who have also shared how she could improve her sector as she goes to head a tourism and creative arts ministry, and also some sports related story. New signings poised to shake up title race in the Ghana Premier League.
Okay, so I have the Mirror, Ghana's most popular weekend paper. Celebrate Valentine with the Mirror, Graphics, Showbiz, and Dodi World. Lydia Quason, overcoming financial struggles in pursuit of education. Construction of modern markets will deny us our daily bread. That's the Kantamanto traders. On the back page, the Mirror Sport, they're profiling Amad Diallo's return to Manchester United. I have the Spectator. So the stories you'll find on your weekend companion: cervical cancer alert, avoid sex at early age, meat synced with car tires dangerous. That's on page 5. And all set for Diana Hamilton's Awake Experience 2025.
Hooray!
On the back page of the Spectator, some sports stories. Legon Cities can worsen plight of Dreams FC beyond the FIFA badges. And there's a picture of referee Salom Yao Bless receiving his badge from FA President Kurt Okreku. Yeah, website's open?
Yes, I have the Ghana News Agency.org, but before I do that, let me bring you citynewsroom.com. This story by the president says that his appointments are based on merit and competence. That's coming in from the president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Also here, Volta region will get its fair share of national development. The president also speaking there. Mahama swears in 5 new ministers. You know, yesterday we were told it was supposed to have been 6.
6, yeah, but she was late. I like the way the things are going.
We'll get
there.
Also here, Public Utilities Workers Union vows to resist ECG privatization, criticizes lack of consultation. Parliament approves Mutaka 4 regional ministers. Sylvester Mensah, formerly of NHI, now heads Ghana Export-Import Bank. Also here, Oral is here for us. We'll fully support it. Togbe Afede. Also here, I don't have power to determine Dan Paris' fate. Muntaka speaking during his vetting yesterday at the appointments committee. Also here, government sets up 1-month deadline for ECG privatization roadmap. Also here, Efutu NDC supporters furious over lack of appointment for Kofi Annan. Not the one we all know, but well, if you're in the Efutu, you know him because he was the NDC parliamentary candidate in that constituency against the very popular Alexander Penyo Market. Also here, even our cats don't feed on 1 cedi 80 pesos. Muntaka vows to tackle poor feeding for prisoners. Abbas Nuruddin appointed acting CEO of Social Investment Fund. And it was an interesting headline here because Muntaka, yesterday, he said a lot of things, He said so many things, and it's only 4 years, so I'll be here. He says, I will lay LI legalizing cannabis without delay. The LI had already been put together for, not necessarily recreational use, but industrial and for medicinal use. So he's saying that
countries are cashing out though. So
yeah, it's a very gray area, right? Yeah. And it's important that we demystify, the wrongly held,
opinions
notions
and notions about
right?
it. Yeah.
Before also embarking on some of these things. But also your police refusal to use firearms prevented election violence, and that's coming in from the Minister for Interior designates Muntaka Mubarak, now we understand has been approved by Parliament.
So I have ChannelOneNews.com open. The one is the digit 1. Some of the stories you'll find on our website. There are many ways to serve, Mahama tells angry NDC supporters. Other stories you'll find, Mahama swears in Jifa Gomashi Ahmed Ibrahim, 3 others. Muntaka, 4 regional ministers approved by Parliament. Mahama names Sylvester Mensah acting CEO of Ghana Export-Import Bank. No Ablekuma North MP in Parliament. No government business. That's the minority demanding that. Trending stories you'll find, tension mounts in Kwewu Abene amid renewed chieftaincy disputes. Rebels kill DR Congo governor as fighting intensifies. That's according to some reports from DR Congo. Oral is here for us. We must support it. Togbe Afede says so. Will ensure police officers on duty have body cameras on. That's according to Muntaka. Muntaka again vows to tackle proliferation of small arms. Other stories you'll find, aggrieved NDC members demand revocation of Anthony Sapon's appointment as GRA head. Saboba SHS Fire headmaster appeals for support for students. St. Vincent College of Education reopens. James Gunu enhancing tourism, key to Volta region's development.
Let me bring you some more stories on the Ghana News Agency. Northern Nigeria records 373 fire cases in 2024. IMF team to help set tone for Ghana's 2025 budget in February. Finance Minister Keselato Forsen coming. I almost said Finance Minister designate. But I know after he was sworn in and he took the oath of office, he's now Finance Minister. So it's important you all take note of that. Vice President Lord's Assemblies of God Ghana for investing in education, health sectors. Also here, Finance Minister charges GRE to reverse Ghana's debt curse with more revenue. To some more story, President Mahama to open Education Review Conference in mid-February. Education Minister Haruna Idrisu with that one. So President Mahama swears in 5 new ministers. That happened yesterday at the presidency, and will bring viewers some excerpts of that step. I know, finally with me on the headlines, let me take some international news headlines because, a lot is happening in Obi Manso.
Your favorite Manso.
A lot is happening. Trump is in California to tour LA fire damage. And yesterday I was watching on CNN when he suggested that they need to take out, FEMA, which is like their environmental protection agencies, one of it. Also here, Governor Gavin Newsom greeted with U.S. President hours after Trump said he did put conditions on federal aid to the state. Some more headlines here, and this should concern us because U.S. freezes almost all foreign aid. And this is coming in from the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Interesting times ahead. So it means all of those programs running here, USAID, all of those social intervention for developing countries like ours, for now, according to the CNN story, have been put on hold, and this is attributed to their Secretary of State. So we can delve into the headlines now, I believe.
Yes. I'm looking for my construction of modern markets will deny us our daily bread. That's the Kantamanto traders, okay? A bit of the story reads, some leaders of traders at the Kantamanto market, the largest second-hand clothing market in Accra, have said that even though they are not against the construction of a modern market, their concern is that the process would take a long time and keep them out of business. The traders have therefore given the assurance that they would, in the interim, put some safety and security measures in place to prevent frequent fire outbreaks at the market. The traders who are responding to concerns about wooden structures as against a proposed well-planned modern market structure, told the Mirror in separate interviews that should the government decide to construct a new market, the long process and the entire project would deny them of their daily needs, especially because many of them were single parents. One of their concerns, aside that, is that the time for completion. Yes, another one says, our business helps to take care of our homes, and so for now, we do not need a well-built market. And the solution, they say, should there be a recurrence of such a disaster, the chairman of the Kantamanto Railway Platform Session said they had instituted safety and other security measures, including the installation of closed-circuit television cameras, preventing people from spending the night in the market and preventing the place being used as a labor ward. Mr. Ntiamo explained that some squatters had turned the market into their shelter, and people stay here and have delivered all their children here. They will sometimes close and come the next morning, and someone would have been delivered of a baby in your stall. According to him, the leadership would prevent all such people from sleeping in the market. He observed that many of the fire incidents happened at night, adding that the new rule by the market leadership was to involve the use of security personnel as guards to ensure that no one slept in the market. Mr. Ntiamwa said they would take into consideration all food vendors who kept gas cylinders in the market and ensure they adhered to all safety regulations, after which the market will be closed by 6 p.m. So Kantamanto is up and running in their wooden structures. They say that...
You have to add that.
Add what?
But that the fact that it's a wooden structures.
Oh, but that's the unique...
You know, it's wooden structures, so it's fine.
It is what it is, right?
You know,
yeah, that's the structure of the market. You know, concrete on the ground and then unique wooden structures, and they're selling, so...
You know, I had calls from the Ghana National Fire Service, you know, to the point that we shouldn't have allowed them, you know, rebuild in the manner in which they did, you know. And they cited their reasons for such a call was based on the fact that they said that they need to put in place proper fire emergency response services and, of course, other essential emergency response, you know, mechanisms in the place to ensure that, you know, the nature of that fire we saw early in the year, you know, would be curtailed, or future occurrences of such would be curtailed. But hey, you know, before we could say Jack, wealthy businessmen were donating, you know, roofing sheets. We don't know in whose interest to the place. You know, the vice president himself, the former vice president himself, when they, you know, donated money initially, later also donated roofing sheets. The people were very happy with that donation. Later we saw other, you know, people, businesses, banks, all of them start moving in. And most recently, government, you know, through the chief of staff, when he met with the traders, donated 1 million Ghana cedis. Hey, you know the propaganda in town? Oh, some funny things. I'm not sure propaganda, but like some funny things we've seen, you know. So there are some online news portals, quote in quotes, right? And they did a breakdown. They said that there are these number of Kantamanto traders, and government donated 1 million. So what it meant is that every trader will get 142 Ghana cedis. And, you know, circulating it so as to make. But you know, the point is that government donated 1 million Ghana cedis. I'm not sure they're going to share it amongst.
I don't think all the. I think there's an interview that we did with their head, or their chairman, as they call him, and he mentioned that all the donations that they received, they're going to use it to build a fence wall. And also the CCTV that he mentioned, they're also going to use it to procure those things. And I think he mentioned something about, you know, liaising with the security. I don't know whether they're going to pay the security for protection of the market during the evening. So, I mean, yeah, they're not going to share it. So nobody's going to see 142 Ghana cedis. That would just be crazy.
Yeah, but like I say, you know, that's also politics, right? People trying to make political capital out of it. But, Eno, let me bring you some ministerial swearing-in related stories. So, 3 stories here. My appointments are based on merit and competence. You know, and you understand why the President John Mahama is saying that, you know, when they announced certain positions in some state agencies, particularly the NCA, which will later get confirmation from the authority, you know, some party foot soldiers and grassroots supporters were not happy. You know, of course, some of them, their reasons for their unhappiness with their appointment, was based out of a lack of understanding of how sometimes some of these things work, right? So there were so many accusations. Of course, some of them we couldn't verify, so many chatter around how the said person, I think some Reverend Fianco was MPP, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that couldn't stand the test of time. The appointment was, confirmed later. And so the president came out to speak yesterday when he was swearing in new ministers, and he made the point that all of his appointments are based on merit and competence. But let me bring you this story as Mahama swears in 5 new ministers. President John Mahama has officially sworn in 5 new ministers at the Jubilee House on Friday, January 24, 2025. This milestone follows the approval by Parliament after a rigorous vetting process and extensive debate on January 23 and 24. In his remarks during the swearing-in ceremony, President Mahama emphasized the critical roles the ministers are expected to play in advancing Ghana's development agenda. He called on them to demonstrate diligence, accountability, and innovation in addressing the nation's pressing challenges. The 6 new ministers sworn into office and their respective portfolios are as follows. Madam Abla Jefagomashi, Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. Mr. George Opare Ado, Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment. Madam Emilia Arta, Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, who I must add, by the way, wowed a lot of people during her vetting. That happened earlier in the week. And also Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim, Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. And finally, Madam Elizabeth Ofosu Ejari, Minister for Trade, Industry and Agribusiness. She's a seasoned professional with legal and policy background, MP for Techima North. But it's interesting. The major talking point from what happened last night was to the point that there's supposed to have been 6 nominees.
Yeah.
And it's widely been reported in the media that the 6th person who was supposed to have been, sworn into office, taken through the oath of office and all of that, was the minister, who's been approved by Parliament anyway, Namomo. She's MP for Crow, I believe.
Yeah.
And she's minister for, or she's been appointed minister for gender, children and social protection. And the news, making around was that she was late for her swearing in. And of course, it's got so many people talking on social media, with some highlighting the fact that, to begin with, your vetting wasn't even that great, and we have concerns, and to say the vetting wasn't really that great is not to her, it's not an issue of her competence for the office,
right?
But also some of the questions that were asked, and even to an extent some of the responses
that were given,
right? So there was that issue already, and now to add salt to injury,
you're late.
You are late for your vetting, and it's if it's true, for a lot of people have said that it's the worst possible way to start, considering the circumstances and the issues in that ministry. You're talking about livelihood empowerment, people not being able to afford decent meals, people living in abject poverty, talking about social protection, the need to, protect the very vulnerable in society, not to talk about gender issues. And, to make matters even worse, just before her coming into office, there are 2 very critical issues within her space happening right now. So, for example, there's a sodomy case in the football academy that's got a lot of people very livid, right, and angry and calling for authorities to act. Yeah. There's also another case, making rounds on social media and within the police circles around a domestic, abuse case, involving a lady and, a person believed to be very,
and very influential
in the space, and people are expecting the state to take, and by extension, the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, to take active interests in some of these things, right? I don't want to draw a lot of meanings into being late, and I think people on social media too need to be,
wait for explanation.
They need to be responsible in some of their commentary around this. You have some of these guys saying that, she was doing makeup. I don't think it's proper, right? We need to give some grace. But that being said, I think it's also a not too pleasant way to start out You know, to think about the fact that the president was in the Volta region, you know, meeting chiefs, shaking people, you know.
And he still made it back in time.
You know, back in time. You know, and
no excuse.
And you're
Absolutely no excuse.
You know,
for her to be late.
So for me,
I don't think she was in court.
Yeah, but that's her constituency, so she can't tell us where she was. But the point is that, you know, to not let this fester, I think she needs to come out and explain, you know, the circumstances surrounding.
Yes,
and if it's indeed the case that she wasn't late and there was an emergency or something happened, I also think it's important that, you know, she comes out and explains so that she doesn't start on the wrong footing.
But I like if this is the tangent we're going to tow, then I really like it. Because sometimes you can go to events as a journalist. They say the event starts at 8, and you and I know that it won't start at 8. And so if this is what we are going to tow this time around, then I'll be really, really happy, because sometimes it's very annoying to get there early and the event will finally start around 10 o'clock because we're waiting for one minister or the other to show up. I mean, come on. Let's be, you know, time conscious and stop that Ghana man time.
People have even suggested that the president recall it, you know.
Hey.
Yeah. You know,
I haven't seen those comments.
No, see, if it's indeed the case, about why? People have been sacked for far less. No, in other places.
In other countries.
Yeah, don't countenance it. You know, be late to work. It's
a no-no.
It's a no-no. You know, it's where they draw the line for a lot of serious organizations, right? So people have even suggested that if it's indeed the case that she was late for us, I know if you are late for a swearing in, like what else would you be late for? Like, can't think about it. You are late for the sole, you know, event or single event that gives you the authority or the mandate into the role you are going for. You know, so people have even suggested that, see, Mr. President, already now the 60 ministers, you know, they sit up like that. Charlie, plenty people they waiting list. You know, people have been reassigned to, you know, the presidency, deputy things, you know, who were in a position. I don't know what to mention, sorry. So, you know, if this society is going to start out, we can't countenance it. So, you know, there are hardliners, there are extremists and hardliners. So I've suggested that, see, Mr. President, it's a very terrible way to start. It looks bad on government, call it that. So, you know, we'll be seeing a lot of, if this is the trajectory, like you're saying, I think it will help all of us so that it makes people more punctual, it makes people more responsible, you know, in their role. But like I said, it's still important that we hear from her as to why, you know,
she was late.
So we can make some progress. So that's with the ministerial swearing in. Congratulations to all of them. So now we have about 10 ministers who have been sworn in, I believe. Far. Because 5 on the other days, we had Eriko Poku, Minister for Agric, Haruna Idrisu, Minister for Education, Kesel Ato-Forson, Minister for Finance. We also had, these are 3 names I've mentioned, right? Yeah, you've mentioned 3. So Eriko Poku, Haruna Idrisu, Ato-Forson. There was also the Minister designated for the Minister for Energy, John Jinapo, and also finally Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine. That was the first 5 to have been initially sworn in, together with Gavins Agboja, Minister for Transport. Right. So that makes them about 6, the first 6 to have been sworn in. And yesterday we had 5. So Gomla, Abla Gomashi, Minister for Tourism, was sworn in yesterday. Madam Elizabeth Ejare, Ahmed Ibrahim, local government, of course, Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, who came to wow us about the blue economy. The blue economy. And George Ofariado. Yeah. So 5 sworn in yesterday, 6 sworn in previously. So it brings us to 11 so far. You know, so congratulations to our new ministers. And like the president said, you know, they should serve. You know, you know, it's a servant. But I said something on radio the other time. Said that, see, in the past when they give you a position like that, you know, it's too big. It's dawning like this. It's a heavy cloud around you, because they understand the enormity of the task ahead, right? But now you have people clamoring for positions, doing all sorts of things, getting party foot soldiers on social media to be writing all sorts of things about them, just so they catch the eye of the appointing authority. I know that's not what servanthood is about. Right. You know, and a minister, if you check the definition of a minister, it basically means to serve, right? So we wish them well in their new role. And we'll be holding them accountable. As is our role. Okay, there's a story here in The Spectator. Let's bring that quickly, and then if you have a story, we can... Oh, no, actually, we don't have time. So I'll just read a bit of it. Cervical cancer alert, avoid sex at early age. The program's manager of non-communicable diseases of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Mary Efiakome,
has advised young girls to avoid sex at an early age. This, she explained, will give the cervix the opportunity to mature before they become sexually active. You need to delay what we call the first sexual intercourse as much as possible to give the cervix the opportunity to mature before the person becomes sexually active. Dr. Comer stated this in an interview with The Spectator in Accra on Tuesday as part of the Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. According to her, cervical cancer was the second leading female cancer in Ghana, with a total of about 3,072 cases annually, and out of that, 1,815 deaths are recorded, representing more than 50%. She indicated that if young girls are going to be sexually active, then you need to talk to your parents about being vaccinated. She explained that vaccinating young girls against the HPV virus has been found to be a very effective way of preventing cervical cancer. And we've been talking about cervical cancer a lot on this show, Sunday Breakfast to be specific. And so, yes, this is the way to go. Delay sex as much as possible. If not, get vaccinated for the HPV.
Let me just bring you this final story. I know time is far gone, but because of the enormity and the seriousness of the issue, it's an international story on the CNN online portal. U.S. freezes almost all foreign aid, and that includes Ghana. So the U.S. State Department has frozen nearly all foreign assistance worldwide, effective immediately, days after President Donald Trump issued a sweeping executive order on Monday to put on hold such assistance for 90 days. Secretary of State Marco Rubio sent a cable seen by CNN to all U.S. diplomatic posts on Friday, outlining the move, which threatens billions of dollars funding from the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, of course, of which Ghana is a beneficiary, for programs worldwide. Foreign assistance have been seen as a target of ire from Republicans in Congress and Trump administration officials, but the funding accounts for very little of the overall U.S. budget. The scope of the executive order and subsequent cable has left humanitarian officials reeling. The cable calls for immediate stop work orders on existing foreign assistance and pauses new aid. In the coming month, the cable said the administration will develop standards for a review of whether assistance is aligned with President Trump's foreign policy agenda. Decisions whether to continue, modify, or terminate programs will be made following this review, the cable states, noting that such a review should be completed within 85 days. The order from the State Department provides a waiver for emergency food assistance as well as for foreign military financing for Israel and Egypt. The cable does not specifically mention any other countries that receive foreign military financing like Ukraine or Taiwan. And it goes on to say one humanitarian official said the pause is incredibly disruptive and said the specifics of the cable are as bad as can be. Wow, this is a big, big story. And I hope that, 90 days, in the coming days, we might start to see its effect. Right, and there are other stories on the CNN that suggest that Trump has only been in office for barely a week, and it already feels like a 4-year term. Undoing all of the Biden administration or major, executive orders from the Biden administration, and it feels like he's already been in office for a whole term. So it's going to be a really, really long next 4 years. Initially on the FEMA story, I inadvertently said they were their environmental agency, even though they respond to environmental emergencies. They are more like equivalent to the NADMO, right? So that's what FEMA in the US does.
All right, well, that's our news review segment for you. We will be right back with what's happening in town, one of our favorite segments on the show where we tell you all that's happening in and around Ghana. Do stay.